Fit of playing around at Edgewood Golf Course in Drum, Pennsylvania. Officially, golf now has this course rated 67.25 from the blue tees and a slope 135 par, or score 74.1 or something. Drum, Pennsylvania is a small town that is on the intersection of highways 81, I-81 and I-80. It's a little west of Allentown, a little north of Reading, northeast of Reading. Anyway, it's out here, and it is in the foothills, the coal country, and the weather here is just about as fickle as you can get. Some days it's beautiful, nice and sunny, and hardly any clouds in the sky, and the next day it'll be rainy and cloudy and foggy. And today it's rainy, cloudy, foggy. The day after I played, it was really nice. The day before I played, it was rainy and foggy most of the day and wet, and it rained the day before that. So when I played, the course was largely wet, with a creek in the middle of it that was almost overflowing. But it's a decent course. It's a decent enough course. It's reminded me of a lot of some courses in near the Shenandoah foothills. A valley course, not overly flat, not overly wide, kind of a woods course with lanes. But some interesting holes. Definitely a slightly different twist on the average neighborhood woods course. Not a lot of houses around, and even the houses that were around were tucked fairly well back in the woods behind the course or away from the course. Though it did have some of the normal problems, like a municipal airport just over the hill to the right, a gun range, an avid gunner with something like a 10 millimeter who's just firing off clips not more than 200 yards away from the course. Some motorcycle riders riding their dirt bikes, and a little bit of car noise around the peripheral of the course, but no greenskeepers, and certainly not much greenskeeper work on this course, as it was almost soaking wet. Car path only. The fairways were fairly long. The rough was definitely long, and it had a decent amount of verticality. I won't say at all that it was flat. There was some actually pretty decent, interesting holes in the course. Certainly some good uphill, approach shots, and some good uphill elevated greens and elevated tees. And it was a nice course. I'd rate it definitely call it a B course in general. The course had a fair amount of water intentional water on the course. A number of lake crossings, but no real long carries off the tee. There's a couple decent carries. I think it was one hole was elevated tee where it had maybe a creek that crossed the fairway, and you had to drive down to the fairway. And it probably was probably 175 yard carry to the fairway. But overall, nothing really long off the tee. But it did have some good approach carries, which were interesting. You don't see that too often, where you're carrying over a lake or carrying over a creek or carrying over something, wet or marshy or something like that. You'd see that every now and then. This course had definitely, 4 or 5 holes where you have carries across water to the green. It wasn't a bad course at all. I would rate it at least slightly above average. I've played courses in the DC area that were not as interesting as this course, that charged twice as much easily, $50 to $65 or $70 with a card at 18 on a Sunday at 2 o'clock. And they had a hot deal. It was $22 for the hot deal versus the $25 normal price. With a nice clubhouse, a nice dining, facility, a nice banquet room on the course. And I just couldn't think of a whole lot that was really wrong with it. It could have been a little bit more vertical. It could have been a little bit longer. It was 67.50 from the blue tees. They didn't really have any black tees. And it wasn't. I should say that the sand traps are really not in good condition. I mean, it had sand in all the traps, but there were a lot of pebbles and rocks and stuff in some of the traps, and not the kind of thing I really wanted to go out and hit sand shots. So I did, just kind of knock my ball out of the sand a couple times. And of course, after the rain, some of the sand traps were wet, if not, with puddles of water in the sand trap. So not the greatest condition, but not bad. And I think the course layout overall made up for the condition it definitely was a decent course to play, no question. And it could have been a little bit longer, but it was long enough to be a challenge. I wouldn't say that it was a real big challenge, but certainly an interesting challenge from the blue tees and a decent course to play. The greens were a little bit long, certainly a little shaggy, a little slow, but had good action. And they were a little tricky to putt because the putts would always break, about 45 degrees or so as the ball stopped rolling and so forth. And I left uphill putts short, especially when I decided to keep score this round because somebody was asking me about how do I score and stuff. And a few people have asked me about that. So I said, well, what the hell, I'll go ahead and keep a score this round. And as usual, when I keep score, I tighten up a little bit and didn't, putt as aggressively as I should have on some holes. And I think I threw away easily 10 strokes just keeping score. But in general, a fun round. I enjoyed it. I definitely would play this course again if I had the chance. And at $25 with a cart, that's the kind of deal, I think it would be nice to have when you travel away from the DC area. You certainly can get these good deals. Now, admittedly, this course is, probably, 3 hours north of DC. But it was a nice drive up here, and I certainly had a good ride up here. I had to come up here for work. We've been up here working for a couple of weeks now, so I decided to go ahead and break out my clubs and play. And a good round. Now, I'd say a definite B course. Let's just leave it at that. That's Edgewood Golf Course in Drum, Pennsylvania.